Hello and welcome to Senior Care Connections. I'm Stewart Mada with Visiting Angels Lake Norman. We at Visiting Angels come to you each week here on WHIP to help you navigate the entire senior care healthcare landscape. What resources are available to seniors and their families here in the Lake Norman area, and what are the costs of care? Our special guest on this week's edition of Senior Care Connections is Don.
I can be John, too, at times.
I was so worried about messing up your last name. Don Grothoff of Focused Healthy Family. The Don part's easy. Welcome, Don. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
So tell us, what is Focused Healthy Family? I know what it is, but tell our audience, what is Focused Healthy Family?
Well, it's centered around family, of course, because the name is family, but you know, what I work with is working with caregivers and people that are taking care of aging loved ones, calming them down. I use EFT, which I think you've seen before me do, the tapping on different meridian points to be able to calm someone down, ease their fight or flight syndrome that's going on with. And I know I was a caregiver for my father-in-law, and it takes a lot of time, a lot of efforts, and you get very stressed out over it. So we really want to help somebody get past that part.
Now, you spread the word a lot about what you do and the things that you help with people. You have your own podcast. Tell us about that. How frequently do you produce those? How do people listen to those? I had the pleasure of being a guest on one of those.
We produce it every week. It's my wife and I, and we've focused again around families, taking care of the caregivers, the seniors, and we've interviewed all kinds of people, physical, nursing homes and different places like that. We've done doctors. We just had somebody on that did, in fact, it's up this week right now, is fraud, talking about fraud and the scams that hit the senior population. You know, so like I said, we do it every week, and like I said, we've been doing it for about 3.5 years now.
So let's talk a bit about that fraud. That really piques my interest, because I think people know that senior fraud takes place. I have some horror stories in my 20 years that I've heard. One story I repeat is I was talking with a family. Their loved one lived in Florida, but they were thinking of moving her here to North Carolina. And I said, well, what's going on? They said, well, Mom got scammed. I said, what happened? She said, well, she needed a legitimate roof repair. And Mom has a little bit of dementia. The person came out, repaired the roof, gave her the bill. She paid the bill. A week later, he must have noticed she had memory loss. A week later, he came back with another invoice. In 3 weeks, he came off the third invoice. 5 times he charged her, and she didn't remember that she had paid the bill. So these scams are just crazy.
Well, that's what we talked about it beforehand, just Gina and I talking about it, but then I just searched out. It took me a long time to find somebody, but I found somebody who is an ex-FBI agent that worked in that field. And, you know, he talked about some of the undercover things that he had to do and some of the places he had. What was really strange about it is he talked about the places he would go into and how kind of rude they were. They didn't give a you-know-what about the seniors. And they were very rude about it. They would force people. They put time frames on it that they have to do it now, and that was what I hadn't thought about. Those people are pretty much, those that are in it are ruthless, really, in what they're trying to do.
And they know how to manipulate people. I know a lot of people are trying to do it through the phone systems, and some of our phone screening companies, it's getting better. I've noticed a lot of calls that I make are screened now ahead of time. That's got to help a bit. But the solicitation, and people are scared when they hear, oh, this is the IRS, and if you don't pay us right now, or this is your bank, and there's an error, and you got to pay us for this or that. And these things happen, every day, billions of dollars.
Well, the other part of it now is good old AI coming in. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if there's a show out there called, a movie called Thelma, and it's about a senior who was scammed. Now, they take it a little further. It was part of a true story, somebody that was scammed. But these AI abilities, they can videotape a person's voice, like off of a video on Facebook or something, like your niece or your nephew or your
grandchild.
and this person called. It was the voice of the children. And was asking that I need $10,000 today. That and that's the scariest part now is coming up with that. One thing they talked about, and we talked about it too, is never say yes on especially if you don't know what the call is, because they can record that and they can use that, So the AI is a tough place for us right now.
So AI is scary. We talked about AI. It has some use as tools as well. What role do you see AI taking in healthcare in the near future?
Well, you already have it. Some of it, they're doing more stuff online, and I've even heard of some that the doctors actually isn't live. It's kind of a robot that's trying to handle some of the basic stuff of
dictation and then things like that. Yeah.
So I think it could be good, but I think you think about all the things we've gone through in life. I remember when microwaves came out back, and my mom was, I'm never going to get one of those, And the next thing you know, we're microwaving everything.
Yeah.
So I guess TV's the same way, internet's the same way. It's how you handle it, and as a parent or you have to kind of, and especially for seniors, you're going to have to kind of be on guard for what's going on with your senior and make sure that what they're doing, they understand it and they know how to handle it.
We'll be back with Don Grothoff talking about his work with his organization, Focused Healthy Family, after these messages from our sponsors here on Senior Care Connections. Back with Don Grothoff, along with me, Stewart Mada, of Visiting Angels Lake Norman Home Care, here on Senior Care Connections. We're talking about his work with his organization, Focused Healthy Family. Don, tell us about your journey to working in the healthcare realm.
Well, it kind of goes back quite a ways back. I had I was in a totally different industry, and I don't really want to go into that, but I was had some issues with my parents, and my wife pulled me to this lady who became my mentor, and she was kind of my coach or even almost like a therapist for me, working through these issues. And of course, all that time, I kept saying, yeah, maybe someday because she was like, oh, I think you'd really be good at this, this EFT tapping thing. And I'm like, okay, yeah, put it in the back of my mind, and said, one of these days, maybe I'll think about that. Well, then all kinds of issues happened with my family. I have two children have OCD, very severe OCD. And they were separate too. It wasn't two together. And when the first one came about, we started using the tapping process to help us as a family who were trying to, again, we were caregivers at that point for her as a child, because it was very extreme and it was one of my worst times in my life. But at that time, we were using the EFT to do that. So got her through that. In the middle of that, I had a heart attack. And that one kind of puts you down at the moment. But through it all, I decided that I was going to use this EFT as a practice.
With all of your background, what is the single best advice you can give a family who are searching for care options? They're just starting out.
Well, I think you and we talked about this when you were on too, is I think the important part is that if you can start early with that conversation, and it's a tough one to go down, because nobody wants to talk about the future. Nobody wants to talk about, what's coming or what they want to do with it. But if you can start with that conversation and start out slow, it isn't always going to go fast, and they may refute it, but, start with letting them know, hey, I want to, while you're still here with me, Dad, I want you to tell me what you'd like to do with the future. I want you part of it when you start this conversation. So I'd like you to be, for us to just talk a little bit about it.
Don, how do people get in touch with you?
You can go on to my website. It's focusedhealthyfamily.com, and you can find just about everything there. The podcast even comes off of there. We also have focusedhealthyfamilypodcast.com, but you can find the podcast either way. And I think my numbers are on there, my email's on there. there's even forms to fill out that, if you want to get a hold of me.
Thank you, Don, for joining us here on Senior Care Connections. Join us each Wednesday for another edition. And for those wanting to hear the full podcast version with Don here on Senior Care Connections, you can go to all of our segments at 1350whip.com or find links on our Visiting Angels Lake Norman website. This has been Senior Care Connections.
When the time comes for a helping hand, we're America's choice in home care. When you or your loved ones need assistance, Visiting Angels will be there. Choose your caregiver, we do the rest. Independent, that's the best. Call us for a special caring touch. Visiting Angels care so much. Visiting Angels, America's choice in home care.